We're so excited to welcome onto the show Jennifer Rizzotti. She's the president of the Connecticut Sun, and we actually had her right after their season debut against the Indiana Fever at the very beginning of the season, and now we're getting you like a week and a half after the WNBA finals conclude. So you're the perfect bookend to this season for us. Thank you so much for coming back on.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to be here.
So I think Annabelle and I both wanted to talk to you a little bit more just about your backstory and where everything started for you. And I know that your career really began for you at UConn. And I know right now at UConn, like the women's basketball players there are celebrities because, I mean, they're such amazing players, right? And obviously the teams that you were on at UConn were fantastic as well. But what was it like playing at UConn back in the 90s?
Well, I will say it was very different than it is now. It took us a little while before we actually became somewhat of celebrities on the UConn campus. But yeah, it was my freshman year. You could get a seat for any game pretty close to the court. We were not selling out at that point. I think we had just started our relationship with CPTV. So, people were really starting to have that access to UConn women's basketball. And we started to having more and more success, and it grew from there until my junior year where we were selling out every game, and it was hard for us to even walk around the state of Connecticut without getting recognized. So it came a long way just in the short time that I was there. And then just looking now 40 years later from when Gino started to going into his 40th season, it's a whole different ballgame as a UConn student athlete in terms of expectation and pressure and recognizability as far as players go, social media presence, just kind of their process around branding themselves as student athletes. It's something we never even had to think about as players back then.
Okay.
Said you were a lot more recognizable towards the end of your career there, but with that 35-0 season, how did you guys stay humble and how did you become unbreakable that season with, that newfound attention on you?
Well, I think it comes down to great leadership, between Gino at the top. I think he worked really hard to take a lot of pressure off of us as players and put it on himself. He knew what buttons to push to kind of keep us with an underdog mentality, right? Even though we were undefeated and ranked number one halfway through the season after we beat Tennessee, we still kind of were able to have this chip on our shoulder about, people's, expectation that we wouldn't be able to run the table. And then we had great leadership on our team. Rebecca Lobo at the time was the face of the program, and she was National Player of the Year. And I think so many people saw what she was able to do on the court, but for us as her teammates off the court, she took a lot of pressure. She expected the best of herself. If we had a rough game or a rough practice, she took responsibility for that. So I think she allowed all of us to be the best versions of ourselves as well.
You mentioned Gino. And when you think back to playing under him, is there a phrase that sticks out to you? I know I just graduated from Boston College, and there are certain phrases that I'll never forget from a coach.
I can't really repeat the phrases that are the most recognizable or memorable. No, I don't, he was very inventive, let's just say. He didn't really say a lot of the same things over and over again. There was a new sarcastic quip for every situation that you can imagine. So I don't think that he had one thing. I just know that the biggest messages that we always got from the coaching staff, and they still say it, is like play hard and play smart and have fun, right? And it seems so simple, right? But they wanted us to be not just winners, they wanted us to win the right way. And that was the messaging that came across all the time was, we're going to do this. We're going to play the right way. We're going to act the right way. We're going to win the right way. And so it didn't matter if we won by 30, if the performance wasn't up to the standard of UConn women's basketball. It didn't matter if we lost a game at one point in my career, which didn't happen a lot, if we played up to the UConn standards. So I think it was more about, our behavior and our expectation of ourselves that he ingrained in us.
Yeah, that really resonates with me as well. Both Annabelle and I are former student athletes, and there are certain things that I will never forget. My coach always preaching day in and day
Mhm.
out. When was the moment for you during your 4 years there when you really realized that women's basketball there had a lot of momentum behind it and you guys were starting to become popular on campus?
Probably the end of my sophomore year, I would say. Um, that was the first year that we reached 30 wins. And we were kind of cruising along, more popularity, more student attention, a few more national televised games here and there. That's when people really, I think, started to pay attention, and then that just kind of catapulted us into 1994, 95, where we went undefeated, and you couldn't get a ticket to a game. It was kind of so immediate, right? From, hey, these guys are pretty good, let's go check them out, to, hey, I can't even get a ticket anymore. So it was pretty fun to be a part of that. I think that our coaching staff and again, our leaders, made sure we stayed humble, and we continue to work hard and not get distracted. I think that was a big part of that 95 season, was just enjoying the journey and staying locked in on the moment, and just appreciating each other and going through it with our best, each other and our best friends. So I think we were able to block out a lot of that outside noise, and maybe didn't feel it as much until late in the season when we were, going to the mall or going, somewhere to eat off campus, where people were, coming up and really wanting to celebrate our success.
You started coaching when you were 25. You played professionally first for a couple of years, but then you started coaching when you were so young, which I really think is amazing. But I remember in that interview you did with Sophia, you said that you realized it was what you were meant to do. How was that you realized you were meant to do that?
I don't know that there was one thing or one moment. When you're a player, you definitely can impact your teammates and you can impact the outcome of a game based on your individual effort, your focus, and your performance. But I think when I started coaching, I realized that I could impact so many more players from my position than I could when I was playing. That I could be a bigger part of the preparation around how we were going to game plan for our opponent, what we were going to run, how I could put players in positions to be successful. And so I think that like challenged my basketball IQ in a way that it had never been challenged before. And the reward that I felt when we won our first championship just felt even bigger, because you're watching it on the faces of 15 players, and you're experiencing their joy. And when you're a player, you just kind of experience your own joy. And it's kind of about you, and you're in your feelings, and you're in that moment for you, and you're happy to be around your teammates, but you're not really thinking about how your teammates feel. When you're a coach, you can't help but think about how that experience impacted the lives of all of those women. And so I think in that moment, it was like, wow, this is something that I could do for a long time. And this is a lot of people that I could impact over a lifetime. And I think that's when I realized what Gino had done for me, and that I wanted to have the opportunity to spread that to as many young women as I could.
That is so cool. I love how you describe that about like being able to feel the joy of all your players, because there's a lot
Yeah.
of people on a team. And so I can just
Yeah.
imagine that times, 14, 15 is got to be
Mhm.
super cool. That's
Yes,
awesome. Well,
absolutely.
you've been a player, a coach, and now president. Out of those three roles, what do you enjoy the most?
I mean, it's the game of basketball, right? And I think just being able to be a part of it in different ways and impact it in a different way and in a different role throughout the course of my career. So whether it was providing excitement and joy in the way that I played, and the way that I carried myself, and the way that I helped UConn become a national champion, and I was a role model for young kids, right? That's what you do when you're a player. That's what you're thinking about. And then you become a coach, and you're focus becomes on how are you impacting positively the lives of the next generation of coaches and women in life. It doesn't even have to be in basketball. And how do you maintain relationships and stay a part of their family forever? And so coaching becomes all about relationships, right? And impact. And now I feel like it's, shouting from a mountaintop, like I'm at this, level of team president and I have all of these terrific messages that I want to share and stories that I want to share. And now, how do I hire people around me that will make sure that they're amplifying these stories and telling these stories in ways that intrigue fans and make people want to watch the WNBA? How do we celebrate the women in our league that are, consistently, you know, giving of themselves in ways on the court but also off the court as human beings? And how do I support that and promote that and even help prepare them for the next phase in their life? So I think the fact that I've been able to be in a position my whole career where I can help grow the game of basketball and keep trying to make it better for the next generation, that's been, where I feel like I've been truly blessed.
Well, one of the things that you did this season to really help promote the game of basketball, especially women's basketball specifically, especially in Boston, was execute that game at TD Garden, the Sparks Sun game. And I went and saw that game in person. And I remember when I walked in a little late. It was like in the second quarter. I walked in and like my breath was truly taken away by the environment. And I'm just wondering from your perspective, what it was like for you to really see all those fans in that building.
It was certainly a highlight of, my time here in Connecticut. I come from a strong background of people who love basketball, right? I mean, this state, between UConn and the Connecticut Sun has given so much to me. And I'm so appreciative to the loyal fans that have supported UConn and Connecticut Sun players for decades, right? I think I was overwhelmed with Boston because I don't know that we had an expectation that that was what it would be like. I can remember the first conversation with TD Garden was, how much does it cost to open the lower bowl? And how much more does it cost to open the upper bowl? Because we had no idea how many tickets we would sell. And the fact that we immediately had to open up sales for the upper bowl within a month of going on sale just spoke to like how excited people are about WNBA basketball. And if you bring it to them, they are going to show up and they are going to be loud and they are going to be excited to have an opportunity to be a part of this wave of popularity and excitement around the WNBA. And so I think we were just all overwhelmed, and that there was so much positive reception in the city. We had done a youth festival. We had done a women's empowerment dinner. We did a watch party. We did a block party. I mean, we filled that weekend with Connecticut Sun events and people showed up to every single one of them. And so it just made me really excited because we've been trying to make sure that people know that the Connecticut Sun is New England's WNBA team. We're not just Connecticut's team. We are Massachusetts' team. We're New Hampshire's team. We're Vermont's team. We're Maine's team. We're Rhode Island's team. We are the most accessible WNBA team to all of New England. And so it was great to be able to bring that a little bit closer to some of those people. But I think also just to remind them that, hey, come down and see us play because we want to represent all that's great about New England.
I know you definitely want to get fans from Boston down to Connecticut, but what more opportunities or events are you trying to plan to potentially bring the Connecticut Sun back to Boston or back to other areas of New England?
Yeah. Well, we definitely will be planning another game up in Boston for the 2025 season. So that's in the works as we speak. And then we've talked actually a little bit more about, how we want to attack our youth development in New England. So do we have the bandwidth now as an organization to start bringing youth clinics to other states, right? So that, instead of just being very localized, which we've done in the past, we can bring the Connecticut Sun to you, right? Whether you live in Burlington, Vermont, or you live in Concord, New Hampshire, or you're up in Portland, Maine, that you'll have access to the Connecticut sun in your region, which will hopefully inspire you to want to come down to see us when we're in Boston, or when we're obviously playing our other 20 games in Connecticut. So just reminding people how small New England is, and it's easy to get around, but also being aware of the fact that it's great to be able to bring your product to the fans and to the kids and to the youth, and create a lifelong fan, however we can, throughout all of the states of New England.
You mentioned not expecting, or really just not knowing, what that lower versus top bowl would be like in TD Garden. So just how have you seen the economics of the WNBA change throughout just this specific last season?
Yeah, I obviously there's been a lot of articles and conversation around the growth. I think we've seen record numbers in ticket sales. We've had a lot of franchises see record numbers in overall fans in their arena. We've seen teams like us move out of a smaller arena to play in a bigger arena and be successful selling it out. We've seen record engagement numbers and viewership numbers on TV and social media. So I think we're here to stay. I think this is what's been brewing now for a long time. I think these players coming out of college have learned how to brand themselves through social media in a way that's bringing thousands and thousands of new fans to our game. And I think that's going to continue. I don't see that slowing down. I think that the WNBA was on blast this summer. I mean, so many people had access to watching our product, and I would say for the most part, they were impressed and they were excited, and if they weren't fans before, they are fans now. And so we just need to continue to make it accessible for people to watch us, to come and see us play, and be able to, have the ability to meet our players and have them be, part of their lives through the stories that we tell.
I totally agree that you've seen players recently, especially in college, really be able to harness their brands and promote themselves in different ways. But I think there's another aspect to it as well, which is that pop culture has really also embraced the WNBA. How have you seen that this past year?
Yeah, it's funny. I can remember post the TD Garden game, Kayla Burton wanted to ask me about drip and who had the best drip outfit prior to the game. And I said, Kayla, you're talking to somebody who used to wear her uniform to the game. There was no drip back in the early 2000s. But, I think our players have embraced so much more than just being basketball players. And it's so fun, whether it's, how they dress, the businesses that they have outside of basketball, podcasts that they're on, the social media presence that they have. We've got rappers in college. We've got, entrepreneurs in the W. We've got women creating their own makeup line or clothing line. These women have really understood the assignment when it comes to more than just a basketball player, and setting themselves up for life after basketball, which is something that's really important to executives in the WNBA, is that we are helping prepare them for the next phase of their life. And as much as they all want to play basketball forever, they can't. So whether we're providing opportunities for jobs in our front office or our basketball staffs, or we're helping them promote their brands on our social media, I think it's just really important that we embrace them as a whole, right? And we embrace all of the other industries that want to be a part of the WNBA. We don't need to just be attractive to athletes or kids that want to become basketball players. We can be attractive to any kid that is excited about what somebody's doing on the court, what somebody's wearing off the court, what kind of music that we're listening to, what celebrities are showing up at our games. I think that our game has become much more entertainment, right, than just sports. And that's what has made the WNBA really fun.
Yeah. Well, with all of this popularity, you've also seen the players choose to opt out of the current CBA, which isn't necessarily a
Mhm.
surprise. I think people were expecting that. But what is this next year going to look like? Because the players in the league have about a year to come to terms with the deal. And, I really don't know what goes into these CBA negotiations. So, from an inside perspective, what happens over the next year?
Yeah. I mean, I can't really talk too much about anything related to the CBA. I will tell you that the opt out just means that we will enter into a negotiation phase. So the players and their player union representatives and the team ownership groups. And whatever the issues are that they discuss will be eventually agreed upon, right? So that we can enter into the next growth phase in the WNBA. And I think it's really exciting to know that we're at a place where we can grow together, right? I think that's the key, is that both sides want a healthy, relationship, and we want to make sure the WNBA is here and standing decades down the road. And the amount of growth that we've seen in the first 28 years of the WNBA is astounding, and it's still a very young league. And I'm just really proud of the franchises for the investment that they've put into these teams. I'm proud of the players for being the essentially the product that we're able to sell, so that we can invest back into them. And I'm proud of the fact that we all want to do this together. We want to build it the right way. So the issues that come up will be something that both sides discuss, but I think no matter what happens, we'll come to a healthy outcome.
You mentioned all those external things that the women do, brands that they have, the outfits that they wear, the music that they're listening to, what they do outside of the court, and probably the service that they do in the community. Those are
Mhm.
all things that make the basketball player who they are, right? That's a part of them.
Yes.
And your role as president, you're building this team. Is there a specific moment or memory that sticks out to you when you saw something from a player off the court, not X's and O's, but off the court, where you were like, I want her? That's someone that I want a part of my team.
I mean, you could say that about so many of the players in this league. I will say I was fortunate to come to Connecticut when Jasmine Thomas was here, and she was one of the more active players in the league around partnering with an organization to promote and fundraise, right? So she was really involved in the Kay Yao Foundation for breast cancer awareness. And I can just remember how engaged my staff was when Jasmine came to us and asked if we would do like an event around breast health awareness and fundraising efforts for the KL Foundation. When you can like combine the basketball team with the front office team in such an impactful way to put on, we did a sneaker ball, to put on an event where everybody in that room feels like this is why we do what we do, right? As much as we love the games and as much as everybody's out here trying to win a championship, we have players that truly understand that they can use their platform to make life better for somebody else. And I just always felt really fortunate to have a player like that on my team that really understood that she was fortunate enough to be in a position to help others. And she was going to utilize everything at her disposal, including all of us, right? To help her accomplish her goal. And I can remember how grateful she was when we threw that event and how much money we raised and how proud she was to be able to donate it, because it just spoke to who she was as a person. And so I think as a team president, like that's the kind of mentality that you want to instill in all of your players. And some of it is because you have a family member that might be impacted by something. Some of that is you grew up and you want to continue to support an organization. And some of that is just a little bit of encouragement. Like, hey, this is what we're here for. You know, we got to make sure that we can put on a basketball game and get you sneakers and uniforms and turn the lights on. But we're also here for this, and we want to support you and what's important to you as a person, and use us, like tap into all the resources that we have to help you do that. And so I think that's what makes what I do really special, is that I can help provide a great experience on the court, but I can also make sure that I'm providing support and amplification for anything that the players want to be doing off the court as well.
It's always really inspiring for me when I see players leverage their influence in moments like that,
Mhm.
and then the organization is there to support them. So, I mean, I commend the Sun, I commend everybody that was a part of that. That's so awesome. And I know we're almost out of time here, so I just have one quick one because I want to promote the college season that's about to start on Monday.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
obviously, Paige Beckers, everybody's talking about her. She's the kind of consensus pick to probably go number 1 overall if all things go well for her this season. But who are some of the other players that these WNBA teams really have their eye on this season?
Yeah, it's a pretty loaded group in college right now. I'm not going to lie. I mean, from Paige all the way down to some of the incoming freshmen, it's really exciting to think about this upcoming season, especially after what a great season 2024 was. And you've got South Carolina returning as defending national champions, and they're just so good as a team that nobody even talks about how they're good their individual players are. But Dawn Staley's built a powerhouse down there, and I always feel like she has WNBA prospects. So you'll see a lot of WNBA front office personnel at South Carolina games this year. Obviously, Paige is a special player who everybody will have their eye on. I think Kiki Irafin out at Southern California, pairing up with Juju Watkins, who's only a sophomore, will be an exciting duo to watch this season. Notre Dame is loaded up again. They're returning Olivia Miles, who's one of the most exciting guards in the country, as well as Sanaya Citron and Maddie Westfeld, who are seniors that will be coming out into the draft. So, I mean, there's just so many good players. UCLA is loaded, Utah. There's always great teams in the SEC. And then there's always like the fun, like underdogs. There's going to be a lot of players that come to light in the next 5 months that nobody was even talking about last year, but have gotten a new opportunity and to shine their senior year, and they make the most of it. So it's an exciting time for college basketball, which makes it exciting for WNBA basketball, because so far the seasons are literally just feeding into each other. And the fans of the W are now excited on Monday to watch college basketball start up. And then when the college basketball season's over, we have our draft and the WNBA season starts right away. So it's like 11 and a half months straight of women's basketball. And I think it's great for our fan bases, and it's great storylines. And I'm just really excited to see how this college season plays out.
Yeah, I was looking at some mock draft boards and I saw there were a lot of juniors on it. And that's just not something that we would have seen a lot of in the past, because most athletes wanted to stay for as long as in college as they could, because it was such a good experience there. But now you're starting to see players really want to go to the WNBA. And that's just a testament to how strong this league has become. So, Jen, thank you so much for taking the time to be on with us today. We really appreciate it. And we're looking forward to getting the college season going, and then WNBA right back after that.
Yes, for sure. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you.